Welcome to the late night chat. And um, let's see if Jacima, you can post that. How about Christina? I don't know if you're.
Put me on the spot, Jeff.
Uh-oh, if you got. Sometimes the cell phones are a little too small. Are you able to read that?
I can try.
Okay.
Let's see if I can zoom in. Hold on. Oh, maybe. Okay. Great. So, dear folks of Baba, topic telling others about Baba. Dear folks of Baba, this topic has has again come up, and it bears delving into a second time. Some of my most awkward moments in this life have been when I've been asked by someone suddenly, "Who is that person on the locket you're wearing?" Sometimes my words come out spontaneously and surprise me by how apt they are in meeting the situation. But at other times, I'm lost at what to say, especially when it's someone I know. One of the easiest moments of sharing about Baba is on an airplane with someone next to me I will most likely never see again. That's so true. We probably all have struggled to explain who Baba is and those who haven't heard of him, to those who haven't heard of him. And we have also had to face being around family, neighbors, or people at work who we fear might strongly disapprove of our life with Baba. These situations are often challenging in their own way. How do you deal with these? Do you say directly who Baba says he is, or do you skirt around the issue by referring to Baba as a spiritual master from India, or deflect this question by talking about his teachings instead? Do you have a usual way of introducing Baba, or do you often have to use your intuition each time in assessing the situation? Baba has said, your job is to bring my name to the ear of a person. Your job is to bring my name to the ear of a person, and my job is to bring it from the ear to the heart. You may feel relieved that he has discouraged proselytizing, which often puts people off. I've heard a wide range of approaches to sharing Baba, and they are all valid. I've never heard a fellow Baba lover say, "Mind your own business," when when that is exactly what one might fantasize sometimes. Explaining Baba to others can definitely be a challenge, and in some cases, there can be a natural fear of being cut off. Okay. Being rejected or even scorned. There is also a resistance to sharing with others something so sacred in this profound world. Do you feel pressure from Baba to tell others about him? It can be difficult and even alienating when family or colleagues or people in our neighborhood express their outright disapproval of our following Baba. How can we explain that we had no choice? It was our destiny. And in some cases, the Baba lover may become an outcast, the black sheep of the family, and are never really accepted. This can definitely be very hurtful and even lonely sometimes, especially when there are no Baba lovers or spiritually aware people where one lives. Some have chosen to go completely within their life with Baba to avoid being hurt or disapproved of. Others have joined meditation and religious groups, spiritual centers, and yoga classes to find like-minded people who are more likely to understand them. Joining Zoom meetings has been a godsend for those who find themselves cut off from family and friends. Have you had to deal with alienating circumstances, and what have you done? I think most of us try to say things about Baba that we feel will resonate with others, and when their attention drifts, we tend to readjust. like making a wrong turn and our GPS has recalibrated. Sometimes even that doesn't work. When the Bombay group had a booth at a large citywide fair, they contacted Baba at Marazad for help in answering the question, "Who is Meher Baba?" He replied through Erich, "He is the one who provokes that question in you, the being of all beings." I have found if I offer this response, I often have to wait until later in the conversation because this answer is so unusual and seemingly esoteric. It is only natural to want to share what is most precious in our heart. And yet, it might be better to wait until we feel there is a real receptivity in others. Francis Brabazon, one of the intimate Monolith, once recommended to first become friends with others before telling them about Baba. I think it will be informative and helpful to hear what others have done in these examples. Some of their methods might be directly applicable to our own situation. In his love, with the help of friends, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. So I'm be very interested on what kind of experiences you've had on this, whether it's with family or relatives or just encounters that you have, chance encounters in your daily life, just what you've come up against. And if you feel any pressure to tell people about Baba, or whether you just kind of wait until you feel kind of inspired to do so. But because there's kind of that injunction in some of the religious groups to kind of proselytize and try to win people over. And I would say, thank God we are relieved of that responsibility, that unenviable task. Anyway, anybody, um, anyone who wants to venture out? Hmm.
Bad. I actually have a question before I go into anything. I'm raised a Jew and I really do not know this answer. For Christians who believe that Christ is coming back, what do they expect him to look like? Do they expect it to look like the paintings? And the reason why I ask is because I have said to people, he's God in human form. And he's come back. He's like other avatars like Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad. So I don't know how far off I am with that. So I would love a Gentiles educating here, because I think that might have an answer the way some people talk about him being the God in human form. Thank you.
Anybody want to weigh in on that? We got
Yes.
Tony over there.
Yeah, it just reminds me of the woman on the train. I was reading some Bible book, and she was sitting next to me, and she asked about the book, and she looked at it and she said, "What a beautiful picture of Jesus! What a beautiful photograph of Jesus!" And I said, "Yeah." And she got up and left. I always wondered if it ever dawned on her that they didn't have cameras in those days. But there are certain pictures of Baba that look very Christ-like. Some from like 1920, this one from 1925 in particular, and another where he's looking up and the light seems to be beaming down. But as a Catholic, I don't remember having any tangible idea of what he would look like. I guess I just kind of figured you would know. And I did.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, interestingly, Baba said that he looks very much the same each time he comes. But Jesus, seemingly their last picture we have of him is when he was 33. But so with Baba, you see how the avatar looks like as he gets older. But he said very much the same. Interesting. Anyone
can I
else
offer
going to
an
respond to
yeah,
Diane?
I'd like to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an anecdote that Tony reminded me of. Years ago, Casey, who lives at Marizad, told me that she got on a bus one day. This is before she moved to India, and she sat down across from a woman who was with her young daughter. They were Hispanic, I think, and she was looking at the daughter, and for some reason, the daughter's face reminded her of Baba's face, and she had this urge to show her a Baba card that had the picture that people think looks like Jesus. She had a Baba card with that picture, and so she called the girl over, kind of motioned to her to come over and sit just on the seat next to her, showed her that card, and then the mother says to the daughter, who are you looking at? And she said, Jesus. And the mother said, well, kiss it. And so she kissed it and went back and sat by her mother. But her mother didn't even question it. Like, let me see the card. No, it's Jesus. So kiss it.
Yeah. I think, Peter, go for it.
Yes, sir. Hi all. I need to read a story if at all possible. I got orders to read a story here. Do I feel pressure to share his name? Absolutely, I do. And when I read Erich's story, it got me nervous because I'll just read this. It's not too long. And then I have a question. And no, what I think it was Diane's. I don't know the answer to Diane's. I just know oftentimes, Christians, I guess Christians expect Christ to come back looking exactly like Christ does. I think that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for any other name but Jesus. It says here, take my name to people's ears. So seated in the Mondley Hall, a pilgrim once expressed to Erich his reluctance to talk with other people about Baba. He had done so in the past and had found that most were not interested, and some even made fun of him. He felt that it was better to keep quiet rather than undergo humiliation at the hands of those who were ignorant. He then requested Erich to share his opinion and insights on what attitude one should have in such situations. Erich replied slowly, laying great emphasis on his words. It is very simple because Baba himself has told us what to do in such situations. Baba has said, your job is to take my name to a person's ear. Your job is to take my name to a person's ear. From the ear to the heart is my job. Baba has clearly made it the job of all the Baba lovers to share his name with one and all, regardless of the reaction of the people. It is but natural that the hearts of those that have not been awakened to his love may fail to grasp the importance of Mayor Baba's words, as they are ignorant of his status. Those who mock you do so because of their ignorance, and such people need more than others to be awakened by the touch of Baba's love. They are the ones who need to hear his name more than others. For only when love awakens and ignorance goes, they will really turn to him. We have all passed through this phase of ignorance, and so by shirking your responsibility and not doing the job that Baba expects of you, you are denying him or her the opportunity of awakening to Baba's love. Do not force your views upon him. Do not even argue with him. Just see that he hears Baba's name. If he is open-minded, you can talk more on the subject. Otherwise, let it be. To convince him is Baba's job, which he does by touching the person's heart. Unless Baba does that, no amount of arguments on your part will convince him. Do not be afraid to play your part in spreading his name just because you are ridiculed or humiliated. It is through humiliation that lovers progress towards him, and one should undergo it willingly for his sake. He has awakened your heart by giving you his love. It is time for you all to uphold that love and stand up for him. Do not run away from a situation because it is humiliating. You will be betraying his love and trust in you. Learn to stand up and uphold that love. Erich then went on to narrate the story of a Baba lover from South India who literally took it as Baba's order to him to do his job, and he did it in all earnestness. The Baba lover would share stories of how he went about doing such a job, and we all had a great laugh at the funny situations he got into. He would get up on the crowded bus and shout loudly Baba's name for everyone to hear. If he was in a public place or a shopping mall or a movie hall, he would do the same. If he was in a hospital where he was not allowed to shout loudly, he would take out Baba's photograph and walk over to every patient and show them Baba's face, asking them if they knew who that man in the photograph was. When they said no, he would tell them the man was Avatar Meher Baba and walk away. People thought he was crazy, and some even laughed at him, but he continued doing it. About this, Erich said, his actions, which sprang from an innocent heart, would have pleased Baba immensely, for Baba loves such innocence. He would be extremely pleased if a person carried out his orders 100% with the belief and innocence of a child that trusts the mother's words 100%. That man did not care for the consequences. In fact, he was not even aware that he was being ridiculed because of his innocence and childlike love for Baba. Love him with such childlike innocence, and he will be yours. Erich's statements about upholding Baba in the face of humiliation reminded me of something that Mani would say on the subject in the Mondley Hall. She would compare Baba's ways of working upon his close lovers to an Indian washerwoman washing the clothes. She would say, "Have you ever seen an Indian washerwoman wash clothes? After soaking the clothes in soap water for some time to loosen the dirt, she then holds a single piece of the clothes by its end with both hands and raises it over her shoulders towards one side of her head, and with all her strength, she then brings it down and smashes it against a stone." Mani would be doing the gestures of a washerwoman while narrating the story. She further added, "The washerwoman does not stop after doing it once, but continues doing it repeatedly. There's almost a rhythm to it. With every smash, you can hear the cracking noise. When she has finished with this process, you get a spotlessly clean cloth free of all dirt. This is what Baba does to his close lovers. To clear the accumulated sanskaric dirt, he gives them the opportunity to serve him. When the lover accepts his offer, he gives Baba the opportunity to work upon his lover's false ego, smashing it repeatedly, humiliating him. Just like the washerwoman who relentlessly smashes the clothes against the stone to cleanse the dirt, Baba does the same with his lovers. He appears merciless when he relentlessly smashes the falseness by repeatedly humiliating the one who agrees to serve him. If you willingly submit to it, it makes Baba's work easier. He could cleanse you that much faster. You not only make things easy for him, but also for yourself. The process can be very painful, but for sure that he has a tight grip on you, just as a washerwoman has a tight grip on the clothes as she smashes it. Do not be dismayed and think that Baba has abandoned you. In fact, during such moments, not only is he gripping you tightly with both hands, but his complete focus is on the intense work that he's doing on you. You have become, in that moment of intense suffering and humiliation, the object of his complete attention. Be sure of that and have no doubt. Now, question. I don't know, this may be for Go here, since we had talked about talking with fundamentalist Christians. And oftentimes when I guess I got them all over the place, because so often that they're just them, the way that they talk. It's like, I know how to smell them. They smell fundamentalist. And sometimes I ask who this is, or even if I don't, if I feel like I'm running up against a brick wall, I wonder if this is weaponizing him. If I just say, have you ever heard of this? This is Avatar Mayor Baba. I'm blunt about it. I get them the name and I just kind of walk away. Or I just make sure that they heard the name, say the name, and I may walk. I'm wondering if that sounds cruel or just I got the job. I'm not a poster. Sadly, I'm not a poster boy for being a Baba lover. I know that. I regret that. And I'm not really good at this. I'm not like this 100% obedient at all. However, I'm curious if how that sounds to be maybe too blunt with someone that I feel like is so hard-headed. They don't want to hear it. They want to argue with me, and I just get sick and tired of arguing with fundamentalists. I just will give the name and maybe depart. I don't know. Pass.
So goer.
Jai Baba, everyone. Yeah, we've had this conversation before, Peter, I remember. And no, it's not rude or anything for you to just give Baba's name, and you've done your duty, as Baba says, you've given them his name, and then it's up to them, however they choose to accept it or not, or however they want to deal with it, that's between them and Baba. So you've done your bit, so you don't have to worry about feeling bad or feeling whatever. As long as you give Baba's name to them from the depths of your heart, in all sincerity, then you've done your duty. That's it. That's all I'll say. What do you think, Jeff? Do you agree?
Yeah. Sometimes even on an elevator when people are all there in that little space, Baba. Oh, Mayor Baba. They don't know what you're saying, but they're hearing Baba's name. You can be in situations where you can just drop Baba's name and people don't really know what you've said, but the name has gone out.
That's right.
Hey, Peter, what book are you reading from? I'm just curious.
This is from The Real Treasure, Volume 4, and it's page 214.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Just quick question. How about if it's just cold and calculated, dropping his name and going? Is that a bad thing?
I think it's fine.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Yeah. No. Never a cold thing.
Okay.
Never a cold thing when you give somebody Baba's name. That's the best thing you could be doing.
Thank you for saving me.
Yeah. Okay, we get this second half of Diane's question.
Well, I still don't feel resolved with a response. But so if anybody wants to contact me later off screen, that'd be great. I've said this before, but we get calls all the time on our house phone that are spam. And lately I've just been picking up and hanging up. But what I was doing with that almost every single one, and I might just go back to it, is answer the phone, Avatar Mea Baba, and then keep saying it. And sometimes they hang up, you hear a click, and sometimes they engage. But I've done my job, just like what Baba says. And the other thing is, and I shared this too, I had a little procedure about 2 weeks ago and I had to go under. And I asked the anesthesiologist if she would say my spiritual master's name as I was going under. And she said, absolutely. And then right before she started, she said, and who is it? And I said, I had originally said, I just need you to say Baba. And she said, who is Baba? And I said, well, his real name is Avatar Mea Baba. I thought that was too much to ask of you in the last few seconds of my consciousness. And she started the mantra of Baba's name until I didn't hear it anymore. And that was probably one of the most powerful things I've ever done, because everybody in that operating room heard it.
Yeah.
And, they talk. So,
Yeah, and you had the presence of mind to make a request, you know, as they're about
it's
to put
called
you under.
chutzpah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeff, husband wants me to be a co-host, so I'll call Gail now.
Yeah.
Diane, I took a lot of religion courses. I was a religion major, and I'm no expert. And in particular, I thought if it was anywhere, it would be in Revelation. So I took a hint from Tom and used ChatGPT, and it does not say that there's any description of Jesus coming back. So I'm going to take that as an answer.
Well, there's no argument. You just say he's the modern day Jesus.
Well, no, because they don't look for the appearance, they look for signs like he's coming in a flaming chariot, or there'll be the rapture or something like that. It's more of an event. So, just saying this guy is the reincarnation of Jesus doesn't really resonate with them very well, I don't think.
There's got to be some showmanship here, I guess, huh?
You know what I do when someone asks me, I say, in that in that little email, I said, skirt the issue of who he is. I kind of go into, that he really advocates being loving God, loving one another and everything. And if they're still on the line, so to speak, if I give them things that might resonate with them. The moment they kind of seem to tune out, then I try a different tack. But I always like to kind of get say that he's the avatar is, I wait and later on in the conversation if they still are interested, but and plus here at the center, I usually ask people what their religious or spiritual background has been, so I have a context in which to share Baba. Or it might even be their higher power and not even a religion, or their higher values. But I kind of proceed, checking to see whether they're really tuning into what I'm saying. If they aren't, I just drop the subject. I don't know. So it's good that Peter brought that up. That I don't think most of us feel an obligation to go on beyond Baba's name if there isn't a receptivity. I don't feel obliged at all there.
What do you think,
Anyway.
Tony? You're muted.
You're muted there.
There I am. Now I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
A couple of things came to mind. I forget whose story reminded me of this, but when I was being taken in to get 2 stents in my heart back in, I think, 2018 or 17, and actually they were going to take me in there and they were going to find out if I needed stents, and I got my permission that if I did, that they could do it, and I said fine. And I'm on this table and they're wheeling me in, and I'm going to be conscious because I'm going to need to respond to things or whatever. So at some point before they wheeled me in, I said, can I use the bathroom here? So I ducked into the bathroom, and it had good, sturdy, thick doors. And out loud, I talked to Baba. I said, look, I'm not going to ask you to save my life because that's your call. I said, there are some things I really want to do, but, I'm not going to go there. That's you. But one thing, can you give me, please? My mind is ricocheting and I'm feeling scared. Can you please calm my mind and give me trust going into this? And at some point, and it's the other thing, I think he did listen to my saying I had other things to do, meaning write up these Baba stories and others. But we didn't talk about that anymore. So I went back, I got on the cart, and they're about to wheel me in, and I called, they're like 3 nurses, I guess. And I called them over and I said, just one thing I want to ask. When I go in there, you may hear me saying Baba, Baba, or Mayor Baba, or that's just the way I pray. Don't be concerned. Like, don't be alarmed and something. He said, oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. Anything else? I said, well, I might quietly sing, like I was thinking of the arti or something, my version of the arti. I might quietly hum like a spiritual song or something. No, that's fine. Just whatever you need to do. And so I went in, and it was interesting. And when I came out, there's several stories embedded in this that I'm not going to share because it's off topic. But when I came out, they said that I was the most unusual patient they had ever had going into that procedure. He said, you were smiling and laughing and singing the whole time and taking Baba's name. So that was one way I've taken Baba's name. When I first heard of Baba and recognized him, someone at the Queens College CAF Plaza, they called it, came over and gave me a big blue button with white lettering that said, try a little kindness. And I thought, I've got a Baba button. I didn't even know there were Baba buttons, but I wore that as my Baba button. And if anyone asked me about it, I said, it's Mayor Baba. And I've always liked wearing Baba buttons. Society kind of, the 10-year period where I was with that weird group, I didn't wear anything. But when I got back on my own, I started wearing Baba's picture, and I always wear it. And because that's what I feel like doing. Not that I want to like proselytize or anything. And mostly people don't notice it. But when they do, they won't even ask me who it is. Baba said, he who knows everything displaces nothing. To each one, I, as God, appear to be what he thinks I am. And what I found is people would see Baba's picture, even though they'd maybe seen me wearing it for years. One day they would suddenly notice it and say, wow, what a great picture of David Crosby. Or from people who had tougher backgrounds, Stalin. Or someone thought it was was that?
Frank Zappa.
I'm not sure if I heard Frank Zappa, but I heard quite a few. Gallagher, who I'd never even heard of, comedians, and Saddam Hussein was someone who came from the subcontinent and saw him as the most powerful. When I said, no, it's Mayor Baba. This is one time I said, it's Mayor Baba. It was someone filling my gas, and he looked at the picture, he said, then first he said, you must be very brave to wear that picture on your car. It was on my car during the Gulf War. And so I got through to him, it's Mayor Baba, and he looks at it and he goes, then he is the most powerful of all. But basically, I don't say who Baba is. If they ask me, I usually say spiritual figure who lived in India, like Jesus or Buddha, Muhammad, something like that. Recently, I've met someone who I think I knew from earlier in this lifetime, who probably died because there was a nice very, very sweet friendship and connection, a physical therapist. And so when she asked who this big Baba picture was of, there it is, I think I said the same thing. But as we got to know each other more and we talked about things like reincarnation, I didn't say, I think I know you, you know. But as we went into, it's clearly someone who had a spiritual connection. And then I said, well, you know, I kind of recognized that we had some connection when I met. You know, right away, and I said, and it's the same with Mayor Baba, except bigger. The first time I saw him, because I didn't really give you a full answer. I said, he is Buddha come again, Buddha, Krishna, Jesus. Now, I don't know how she reacted to that. But it was clear in that case, which was really rare, that this is someone who already had some kind of relationship with Baba and now is back, beginning a whole nother lifetime and finding him again, I think. That's not my call. All I knew was Baba was saying, give her the whole 9 yards, you know. And so I think it depends on the circumstance, the time, and just listen to what Baba says to do.
I
Ellen?
hear some.
Oh, sorry.
I hear
Yeah.
some.
That's
humming.
Tony's fan, I think.
Oh, Tony.
Yeah,
Okay.
he has something on, because when he's talking, it's loud, and then when he's off, it's gone now.
Yeah.
It's nothing on in here. Nothing.
Maybe it's inside your brain, that wind going through your brain, maybe. I don't know.
That's you could hear that.
We
Oh,
can
no.
hear it, yeah.
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
no.
There's so much.
Ellen, what do you have, Ellen?
Yeah.
There it is, that noise.
Oh, it must be my brain too. Actually, I think it's the cat's tail here swishing against the computer. I've done many different things over the many years that not many, but it seems like it sometimes that I've been around with Baba. And one of them that came to mind in this conversation was, well, for years I wore a Baba pendant. And I worked in the post office. And when I was in the post office, I'd wear it inside the shirt. And then sometimes Baba would come out. Somebody would say, oh, who's that? And one of my answers was, oh, that's Mayor Baba. And, oh, well, who's he? And I'd say, well, I'd say he's a teacher, but he said, I have come to not to teach, but to awaken. And I've tried to follow him since the 70s, you know, I'd say. And then usually that ended the conversation. but that combination of things worked quite well for me sometimes. Other times the conversation would go on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, some people really show an ongoing interest, and that's the seed of their relationship with Baba, I would say.
Well, the other thing that I remember is one time I went to my aunt's 80th birthday party, and I'm on the West Coast and she's on the East Coast, and she's was married to my uncle, my blood uncle. So I didn't know, I knew her family some, you know, but they weren't living right next to us growing up. So, you know, more extended family that I didn't know that well, but it was a very fancy dinner. And she was a delightful woman. She went to protests against the Iraq War in her late 70s wearing a full burqa, just to get the feeling for it. And she worked at the UN with Eleanor Roosevelt. She was an amazing person, but she was mischievous. So she put me next, she knew about me and Baba. We talked about Baba a lot. We're good friends. We were good friends. And she put me next to a man who had worked in diplomatic missions and had spent time with the Dalai Lama. And my husband was Buddhist. So she set us next to each other, and there wasn't anybody else, I think, at our table. And he asked me, I don't know how it came up, but he asked me about Baba. And Baba stepped in. And I wound up starting with the whim and going through,
oh my God,
basically a very abridged version of God Speaks. I swear it was Baba, nothing to do with me. And he just loved it. It was the most amazing, you know, sometimes Baba steps in.
Yeah, beautiful, and that's true. Yeah, things get said that you would not have consciously done. It just, you get a little overshadowed for the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Robert?
Yeah, hey everybody, Jay Baba. I heard a quote a while ago, and I was trying to find it on my phone, but I was able to find it under wiki quote. And what a quote by Baba is: if your conscience says that Baba is the avatar, say it even if you are stoned for it. So that seems to go counter what we're saying here somewhat. What have you ever heard of that quote by Baba, Jeff?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, but it doesn't mean you necessarily have to go out and do it. But if you're, say, if I think it implies that you're being asked, who is Mayor Baba? But if you're not asked, I don't know, I wouldn't feel obliged.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. So if you're asked who is Bob, and if my conscience tells me I know that he's the avatar, say it, even no matter what's coming back at me.
Yeah,
So
I know. I don't look forward to that day, but
I'm sorry to bring up that.
yeah, no,
But I felt like I had to bring it up if
yeah,
it's true, that Baba
yeah.
did.
That is one of the quotes. What I'd like to ask, on the same subject, have some of you folks wound up in your own family being kind of like the black sheep, that you're kind of alienated from the rest of the family because of your following Baba? Anybody have that experience? Let me venture over. What, Dinku? Are you there behind that 5-letter sign?
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much here.
So, I mean, you've had some version of that, right?
Um, in a way, I mean, like from my in-laws' side, they're all very pro-Zoroastrian. And so I just keep away from the subject. But with certain friends, I often tend to bring up, say, an incident which I feel Baba has inspired. And most of them kind of accept it, but some are skeptical, and so I just stay away from those. But where my family is concerned, my daughter definitely is a Baba believer.
Yeah.
My husband's sort of an atheist, but I've been telling him while he was going through all his procedures to read Baba's God Speaks if he could. And also to keep saying Baba's name when he went in for his operation. I don't know if he did that or not, but I definitely intend to try and convince him to come to Mehrabad once he's back home.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, and he's never been, even though you've been.
No.
Yeah.
So he's never been,
Yeah.
and he's never really been a believer. But I would very much like him to experience it, even if it's once.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else have difficulty with family or a group of people that you're, the community you happen to be in, where you're a little bit ostracized for being following Baba? Any? Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Oh,
Diane. Terry.
So, as you may know, I'm a dental hygienist, and I do a lot of talking to patients, and people will ask me, like, why are you going to India? Or, we'll talk about God, who's your, that kind of thing. And I often just write it down and I tell them that they should, look online and read about him. There's a lot of stuff about him. Sometimes I go into it a little more, but one day I was bringing in a patient who had a stroke, and she was using a walker, and we were walking down the aisle, like towards my office, and I'm talking to her, and she said, "I had a stroke. I'm not hard of hearing. You're yelling." And I said, "Oops, I think I just talked loud. I'll try to tone it down." Well, by the time she left, we were really kind of pals. And she goes home, and 3 months later, she comes back for her cleaning, and I'm leaving for India. And she said, "Why are you going to India?" And I said, "Well," I said, "there's like an ashram there that I want to go to." She said, "Well, like what kind of thing?" And I said, "Well, I, use this avatar as, is my God." And she said, "What's his name?" And I said, "Mayor Baba." And the woman turned white. And I thought to myself, oh no, like I put a cloth on her head. I was going to call the assistant to bring me the oxygen. And she kind of comes around, and I said to her, "What's going on for you?" She said, "Well, 6 years ago, my husband died, and he made me promise that I would put a Mayor Bubba card on every seat of the people that comes to the celebration of his life." And I did that. And she said, "And I haven't heard Mayor Bubba's name in 6 years until you said it to me today."
Beautiful.
As I still have the urn by my bed with Mayor Bubba's card above it in her bedroom. And I just think it's a great story when you talk about, what you do in life and how it comes back to you, because I've never really had an issue with it. It's only been good. People are interested or they're not interested. It's kind of like that. So
People will come into our house and
some
there
people
are
won't even
numerous
numerous, as you know, Jeff, and
Yeah.
don't say a word, whether they think it's a father or a, brother, or I don't know. And then there are people coming in and saying, "Oh, that's interesting. Like, who's that?" So it's hard to know how it's going to work out. But I love telling people about Mayor Bubba. I think it's the best.
Yeah, great.
Prakash?
Hey, Jai Baba, everybody.
Yeah.
This has not to do with the opposition that in the people in the family might have, like you asked, Jeff.
Yeah,
But
because this family is all devoted to Baba. What can you say?
yeah,
Met Baba.
a lot of them, yes. From my father's side, not so much, but from my mom's side, whom everybody. But a couple of incidents which I thought I did share in one of similar chats earlier that we had. But this one has to do with one incident. I was going to India, and I was at the airport, and then I put all my luggage through that machine that checks and everything. And then obviously I have to go through the security check. I was walking through that great gate. And then I did pass through, it didn't beep, nothing happened. So, oh, it did beep. Yeah, it did beep. And then I was coming out, and the guy looks at, I forgot to remove Baba's button that was on my shirt. And the guy looks at me, this is the 1926 picture of Baba, where he exactly looks like Jesus. And he looks at me and he says, "Oh, Jesus?" Then I said, "Yes, Jesus for me." So, and there it stopped. Obviously, I cannot continue the conversation there. So that's one incident. And then I thought I find some curious things that my uncle does. He came here. We were all driving to Myrtle Beach along with a bunch of people. And then we stopped at one of the rest areas in Maryland, I suppose. And we were in the restroom, and he finished his job there, my uncle. And then, and I went in, and then I saw my uncle taking one of leaflets that he always carries. I mean, which has perpetual calendar and a bunch of Baba's messages, how to love God, my wish, and a whole lot of those. And And so I was washing my hands and I saw my uncle take a card, pop it in one of the guys' shirt pocket, actually, directly. And this is one of those gentlemen who rides Harley, and he has a ponytail and then that leather jacket and everything. And then that man takes a card, looks at it, and he says, "Thank you." so he seemed a little abrasive, my uncle, the way he did it, but that's the way he does, and he just goes and just puts it in his in people's pockets, without even asking, "Do you want it?" or something. So there are different ways that people adopt to send Baba's name across, and that's another thing which I thought I could share here. And there is this younger brother of mine who's to whom Baba gave a kiss when my mom took Baba's darshan in 1962. And she didn't realize that he also has to have his touch. So she put him by the side on the pendal. And then she touched Baba's feet and then took the little one who was 9 months old at that time. And she would just walk away, I mean, going. And then Baba claps his hands and asks Arush to call my mother. Sister, Baba is calling you. That's the translation of what Arush said in Hindi. And my mom took this little one and then to Baba, and Baba said, "Give me the baby." And then he gave him a kiss, and then they go back. The reason why I mentioned this because this brother of mine, whoever he talks to, all these people have come to Baba. And he somehow Baba seems to have given that power to him. So he would read Baba's books with some people who at work, actually during lunchtime, he would take discourses and pick a guy who thinks who can listen, and then he just starts reading them. And this gentleman is now here in the US, and he is one of the very close followers of Baba. Is willing to do all the work and everything. And my cousin, distant cousin. So this man needed some physics lessons. My brother was quite well read. So he was teaching him physics, and he would do that. But as part of the process, he would also give some Baba's messages and talk to him and tell him that, look, you have to go to Mehrabad and this and that. So, and this guy also just came in. The whole family of his would not go anywhere near Baba. But this this person, this cousin, distant cousin of mine, I think because of whatever my brother does and whatever power Baba gave him, and they're all firmly embedded in Baba's love. So those are the couple of things I thought I could share. Jai Baba.
Yeah, thank you, Prakash. Yep. Wow.
Diane.
Well, not too many people have their hands raised, but Terry and I were flying back from New York, and it was out of a little field like in Westchester County, so it had to then go to fly to Charlotte, and then Charlotte to LA. And there was a woman that was in the boarding area that both Terry and I commented to each other. We thought had an incredible style, great energy, feeling without even just seeing her. And so when we got up to get in line, Terry and I made a commitment that we decided that when we feel something positive about somebody, say it, because it just can only connect the heart if that's where it's coming from. So I said to her what we had said about her, and you could feel the shoulders go up, the smile, the body language, just you could feel the effect. And we chatted as we're lined up, and it was really nice. And it ended up that she was sitting in the row right in front of us on this whole big plane. And we made a decision to grab a bite. She was flying to a different part of LA than us, so she had a lot more time than we did. But we decided to have a quick lunch together. And we're chatting about all sorts of things. And Terry says something, well, most of our time is occupied with our spirit community. She said, oh, really? What is that? She says, we follow someone who we think is, no, that's not, I'm messing it up. I'm kind of already telling the punchline, if you will. She said, we follow Mayor Baba. And you could see the look on her face. And I said, do you know who he is? She said, well, I know he's the avatar. And we just about like died. It was it took us from like this level to like really the intimacy of speaking the same language was so wonderful.
And we're still in touch.
Yeah, we're still in touch. And that was like 3 years ago. Say his name.
Beautiful. Great. Yeah.
Tony,
Yes. Am I buzzing?
no.
No.
Okay, good. Am I buzzing now that I'm talking?
Nope.
Good. Okay. So this is another thing about telling people about Baba, but it's kind of different. This is back again at this PT place that I was talking. I go like twice a week for my knee and whatever. And I've gotten to, and apart from the one person who I seem to recognize as an old friend, I feel connection with a bunch of the people there, a bunch of the physical therapists and their assistants. It's an interesting atmosphere, and Baba's presence is really strong. So at one point, I brought in, when I'm not getting therapy and I'm lying on the table, I bring something to read. And I was reading, I brought in Edgar Cayce's book on reincarnation, which is an old book of mine. And I was talking to one of the PT assistants, and I was telling her a bit about Edgar Cayce. And last week, some of you may know that a team of Italian scientists took photographs, not photographs exactly, but like with X-rays or something, from a satellite over the Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, and found that underneath the pyramid there is something like 4,000 feet of chambers and passageways and all sorts of stuff, which some people have spoken of, but no one has ever seen them before. Now, I didn't know about this, but I happened to turn on the YouTube, and there's an astrologer friend of mine online, and who I like very much. And he was being interviewed, and he was telling about this new discovery. It's in the New York Times. It's in all the newspapers. It was last week. And I thought, this is really fascinating. And I get to my PT the next day, and they happen to have in the waiting room, I never wait, I can just go in usually, but there's a sort of waiting area where they have a book table that people have just brought in books that people can take, read. You can take one, replace it with another, whatever. And as I walked in, there was this book called Giza, the Truth. It's a thick book. It's a very thick book. And I had just been talking to this woman, this assistant PT person, about what I'd seen about Giza. So I went back in. I said, I was just talking to you about this. Look what someone just left on the book table. And I opened it up. And it's a thick researched book, but there's a big section in the middle about Edgar Cayce and his predictions that around this time they would discover these chambers below the Pyramid of Giza, and they would find the chamber of the Hall of Wisdom. And she said, clearly that book was meant for you. You know? So I brought it home, and it finally occurred to me that I was not going to send it back. I can't read it now. But to replace it with another book, I took my book about my coming to Baba's story. I inscribed it in the front, and I gave it to them, and they put it on the top of the book table. It's still the first thing you see when you walk into the PT joint. Baba has interesting ways of bringing things about.
Very good.
Wonderful, Tony.
Yeah.
Christina.
Yeah, so let me lower my hand. Some people are sort of loud and proud about Baba. They wear Baba buttons and necklaces and shirts, and I've never really been that way unless, I'm going to a Baba place, like the LA Center or Myrtle Beach or India. And I find it really hard to talk about Baba with non-Baba people. And so I still find it challenging. Growing up, I grew up in Long Beach, and we were sort of the only people in my neighborhood and area school that, as far as I knew, that followed Meher Baba. So, it was always something I felt very quiet about, and didn't often, talk about. And I think that's still, still true with me. And it's not for like wanting, worrying about what people think, but it's more about like, it's so deeply personal and just like an intimate part of my inner being that, I guess I don't really want to risk it. I don't know if other people feel that way, but it feels very risky to share that part of myself with non-Baba lovers. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
Yeah.
it's sort of my truth right now. Maybe it'll change with time. But anyways, I do have a kind of a funny story, given what I've said, that I don't, I'm not wearing Baba on my sleeve, right? I had a patient who is an lovely Indian woman who came to see me a couple times for some of her needs, um, and she was from, I think, Mumbai, and I just said, "Oh yeah, I've been to Mumbai," and she's like, "Oh, you've been to India?" And I said, "Yeah." She asked me where I'd been. I said, "Oh, I've been to Pune a few times," and she just looks at me. She goes, "You must follow Meher Baba." And I was, whoa. And she's like, "My mom met Meher Baba." Wow.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
And that happens,
It happens. Yeah, it happens. So it kind of just it floored me. And I was like, well, there you go. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
There was one woman here at the bank, this back in the 70s, and she'd opened her purse and there was a picture of Baba in her purse that showed up, and there was an older guy behind her, and he looked at it and says, "I met the Baba. I met Baba." It's kind of neat. These things happen,
Thank you.
some odd person, some
Random.
circumstance, yeah.
Yeah.
Christine, I just want to say something before I call Sally.
Yeah.
That, I totally feel very much like you do, in that I feel Bob is so personal that, and I realize that I have a history of when I really love somebody and I'm in a relationship and it's so sacred, I don't like to talk about it. I don't like to, it's just sacred. And and I feel that way about Baba.
Yeah.
In my essence, I mean, because I do massage work for all these years, people ask, and it's a perfect place here in my home. Baba's pictures are here, but I understand where you're coming from totally.
Thank
And
you, Martha.
I think
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing too.
Thank
Also.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Sally.
Hey, Baba, everybody. This is a topic which is really interesting because now I want to share about my experience when we first came to this country 34 years ago. I had not completed my bachelor's degree back home in India, so I had to do that. So I joined Montclair State University here in New Jersey, and one of the classes that I had to take was public speaking. So, and we had to present informational essay and a persuasive essay, kind of like we had to give speeches for those and talk in front of an audience. So, So for my informational essay, I chose to speak about Meher Baba. So in front of the whole class, I went up and I talked about Baba, and I said that this is the guru we follow, and I gave all the information about him. So they were very receptive, and everybody was very interested in this. And then at the end, my professor made a comment. He said, "Okay, so now this is a public speaking class. So if this man was in my class, he would have gotten a big F."
Because of his
Wow.
silence.
So that's what my professor said, because this is public, because I said that Baba maintained silence for 44 years and he did not speak a word, and Baba said that, what good are my words if my silence cannot speak? That's what I told them. And then my professor said, well, that's great to know, but if he was in my class, he would have gotten a big F. That's that.
Good story.
Yeah. And then of late, we've been telling our friends in our friend circles, and I mean, everybody knows that we're moving back to India, to Meherabad. And when they ask us where we're going, we take this the opportunity to tell everybody that we're moving to Meherabad, where Baba's tomb shrine is, and that's where we're going to live. And we tell them about Meher Baba. And for those who haven't heard about him, this is their first time. They're very intrigued, and they want to learn more. So that's that. And also today, something happened. We went to my younger son's house, Sandeep's house, in the evening, and he had his school friend, his childhood friend, come over to his place as well. And this boy, when they were little, in grade school, in second grade or third grade, Prakash, my husband, gave Mike, his name is Michael, he gave Michael a picture of Baba. And now these boys are 32 years old. So today he shows Prakash that carries that Baba's picture in his wallet. He said, "Do you remember this? You gave this to me like 20 years ago, and I have it in my wallet." And we were very touched when we saw that. So like
Wow.
Bob says, yeah, just spread my name, put my name in someone's ears, and I'll take them from there. So that came to our minds when we saw that. We were very touched.
Yeah.
Jai
Beautiful.
Baba.
Jai
Jai.
Baba. Sabine, do you have something there? And then I'll come back to Robert.
Yeah, I have two stories sort of that happened around when we first went to Meherabad in 22. We arrived at the domestic airport in Mumbai. I had sort of told the driver that we were coming from Germany, but they didn't realize that we were flying into Delhi and then into Mumbai. So they were waiting at the wrong part of the airport. They were at international and we were at domestic. So I rang Prakash and I said, where are you? And he said, oh, you're at the wrong end. I will send Michael over. Just get a picture of Baba and show it, and then he will find you. So the only thing we could lay our hands on was the picture of the ancient one in A4. So here was Sabine with a picture of Baba, of the ancient one, walking in front of her through the airport, looking at every man, thinking, this might be Michael, the taxi driver, because I had no idea that Michael would not be able to come in, that I would need to go out. So then these two soldiers approach me, sort of gun at the ready, and I'm thinking, oh dear, I just arrived in India and I will be in trouble here. But they were smiling and they're coming towards me. And the older one says to me, how are you doing? And you say, yeah, I'm waiting for my taxi driver. And he said, this picture, I know who this is. This is Meher Baba. And I said, yes, I'm going to his ashram, but somehow, cross purposes. And so he alerts me to the fact that I need to go out, that Michael would be waiting outside the airport. So he sort of made sure I could come in, and we saw Michael and we could go out, So I just thought, okay, Baba just finds his way to make himself known even in India, and this older soldier then turned around to the younger one he was with, started explaining who Meher Baba was, And then when we were back, I mean, nobody in our family is really asking us anything about Baba. I don't know if people are afraid of the answer or, but there really are very few conversations. But one was with the wife of my cousin. When we came back, we went over for dinner, and she said, so who is Meher Baba? They knew we were at the ashram in India. And I was like, oh, Baba, what do I say? And Baba came through. These were not my words, And he said, Baba is pure love. And being in his presence enables us to deepen our love for everybody and everything. And it was just so beautiful, And I could see that she was really touched by that. And I thought, I could never have come up with an answer that she needed to hear, because I would have sort of fumbled around somehow, And it was just so gorgeous.
Could you repeat that again? I got to write it down. Baba is pure love. Is that what you said?
Baba is pure love, and being in his presence enables us to deepen our love for everybody and everything.
Oh,
Wow.
That's divine.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, Robert.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Thank you. It's a beautiful way of sharing Baba. I just want to share a story. I may have shared this before, but 50 years ago, there was a drug program director that had Meher Baba on his desk, and then a young teenager, a drug user, came up to him and asked him who that was. And my story is to say that you never know who's going to be touched by, sharing Baba. That person, that teenager, that drug user was me, and I didn't stick with Baba at the time, but that moment really impacted me. I'm sharing this because we never know who's going to be touched by Baba by sharing him. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Sometimes someone will just put a book in a library and someone else will come across it, and that's the beginning of their whole life with Baba. They find out years later who it was who actually put the book in the library. Kitty Davy used to put books in libraries around the area.
We just do it without asking the library about it. Just
Yeah, well, they would normally kind of okay it, oddly enough.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Tony.
Yeah, somebody, I don't remember who told it, but reminded me of this. In 1983, for some reason, some friend was going to India, and I sent some money to put flowers on Baba's Samadhi. There's a story behind me wanting to do that, and there was enough flowers to put 3 times on the Samadhi. And at the same time, I was working at this job that I really hated. It was before I went to work at the UN, the last job before that, and horrible things going on. But I would wear my Baba, I think it was a locket at the time, up the elevator to like this 7th or 8th floor and get out and go down the hall to my office. And one day around that time, somebody sees my locket and says, oh, look at that. Who's that? And I said, that's Meher Baba. He's and I said some explanation of who he is. And he said, I know who he is. He said, man, I got 3 cats and I named them all after him because they're all always smiling. I said, really? Yep. I named them Baba Cat 1, Baba 2, and Baba 3. And I said, and do they all call? Do they all come at the same time when you call them? And they looked at me like I was crazy and said, no, of course not. I don't know why that sounded like a black voice. He wasn't a black guy, but whatever. So sometime later, I'm coming up in the elevator and I see a guy with a kind of metallic attaché case, but it's clearly like a film case. And he says, "Oh, Mayor Baba." I said, "You know him?" It turns out it was, I believe his name was John Annunziata. He said, "I worked with Pete Townsend on some of his Baba movies." And short time after that, I'm coming up in that same elevator, and as I get out, there's a woman standing there, and I vaguely recognize her from the office across from the one I work in. And she had a husband who looked like James Mason. And whenever he left his office, he just had the heaviest, weariest steps as he slowly walked down the hallway. I recognized her from him. And I get out of the elevator, and she says, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" And she picks it up and she holds it, pulls it like from the chain and holds it close. And she said, "Who is that?" I said, "That's Mayor Baba." And again, she looks at really closely and she says, "I think my husband met him." "Yes, I'm sure my husband met him. Can you come in after lunch?" So I came in after lunch, and sure enough, he was friends with Michael Kahano, any of you who knew Michael Kahano, who met Baba in the early 50s. And Mike brought him along to meet Baba. And he looked forward to my coming in and out talking about Baba, and he would share how Baba gave prasad, candies. He said it was like prasad, it was the gift, as symbolic, he said. And I noticed from then on in, whenever I would see him walking down the hall, he had this real clip to his step, and he was feeling a little bit lighter step, and his spirit was lifted. Meanwhile, things got so bad in that office that I quit. And because I quit under duress, I was being attacked by my coworker. She was chasing me around the office, whatever. I applied for unemployment, and they were not going to budge to give me unemployment insurance. But the assistant was there, and she was a nice lady. And I said, "By the way, do you ever see the people from across the hall?" She said, "It's the strangest thing. The day after you quit, their office was completely emptied out, and they were gone." So Baba had us there just so he could give this fella his reminder of meeting Baba.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Ron.
Gabrielle is calling her.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys. Sorry.
Sunday. Sorry.
I was reminded when there was talk about putting books in libraries that sometimes people put up pictures of Baba in public places as a way of telling people about Baba in a way, or planting some seeds. I know it worked for me, but I worked in a restaurant where there was a lot of Baba people that came through there in a period in the early 70s. And one of the people, I don't think it was me, but one of the other Baba people had a large photo of Baba, and the owner, who was a really nice guy, he wasn't a Baba lover, but he put it up in a prominent place. Actually, it was right in front of where I cooked I was cooking, so I could always look at Baba there. But that's not what I really wanted to say, because I heard a story in Mondeley Hall about another restaurant that had a photo of Baba. And there was one customer who used to come in, and actually he asked some people who that was, and nobody seemed to know. Some Baba lover put it up, and then they left the restaurant, and but nobody took it down either. And so he would have conversations with Baba, because he would be eating by himself at a counter or something, and then see that picture, and he just referred to it as the face. So he just called Baba the face. And he loved eating there in Baba's company and presence that he felt from that picture. And it wasn't too long before that restaurant had to close. And so he came in there one day and said, "What's going on?" He said, "Oh, we're have to close the restaurant." And he said, "Well, what about this picture?" They said, "What about it?" He says, whose is it?" He says, "We don't know." "Why, do you want it?" He says, "Yeah, I do." And he took it home. And then he could talk to it, at his home. He could talk to the face at home. Now, the thing about it was the face at one point told him, you need to stop smoking marijuana, even though his wife was really big on smoking, and he had been, I suppose, and all their friends did it. But the face was so adamant about him not smoking that he decided that he would stop. And this kind of infuriated the other people. So in a way, what you're talking about, people getting upset about somebody who's following uh, Baba, upsetting their friends and family. Well, this is what happened to this guy, but he didn't even know that it was Mayor Baba for a while. It was just the face who had told him to not take drugs and things. But eventually he left, and I guess he took the photo with him and found out who Baba was, I guess, and told that story in Mondeley Hall.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy in Mondeley Hall, that wasn't the guy that was talking to the photograph. That was a friend of his or something?
Well, I assume the Mondeley heard it. It was Erich, I believe, that told the story.
Uh-huh.
He had heard it. He would tell other people, people who would come there. He'd say, well, how did you happen to come? And they tell him the story, and he would repeat it. If it was a good story, he liked it, he would tell it again.
Beautiful. Hey, so I guess it's getting a little bit late. Anybody, maybe if we can have hey, I'll tell you a very quick story. Back in Seattle, when I was there around 1969, I used to go visit this this woman and her son. They just she just gotten recently divorced from her husband. So she had this little boy named Aaron, who was about 5, and he was like a handful because his father, he still hadn't adjusted to the divorce. And I would go over there and play with him and everything, but for hours. But on this occasion, I had injured my foot, so I was stuck in a chair. And so I had to make up these games that would, and that he'd have to go off and do things and come back with things. And so I was able to sit there and kind of create these games. But eventually, after a couple of hours, I was like exhausted and I couldn't think of anything. And he was there wanting to continue to play. So just, and instead of exasperation, I just picked up a photograph of Baba that I had. I had never said anything about Baba, but it was a photograph of Baba, where he's going like that. And I said, Aaron, who's this? See if I could distract him. He looks at me, he says, him's everybody's daddy. What? I couldn't believe it. I mean, him's everybody's daddy. And so then a while later, that gave me some more energy. And so I kind of played further with him. And then after a while, I was exhausted. So I took out a copy of the discourses. And this is Baba in the 30s, where he's out, he's giving a message on alphabet board. And I said, Aaron, who's this? He looks at me, basically saying, I already told you, him's everybody's daddy. I mean, one is a photograph from the 50s or 60s, and the other one is an early one. And, that was he could recognize it was the same guy. So anyway, so let's have a few moments of silence. And then I'm hoping that Martha might have some quotes that she found. So,
Jeff,
okay.
can I? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, I just had a short story something to share that happened to us just yesterday. So I thought I would share. It just shows how Baba is everywhere. Do you know that Baba is also on the Florida Turnpike? And this is the story. So we're driving over to our daughter's house, and my husband, as usual, is a frantic driver. I'm sitting there tense as anything, as always, thinking Baba, 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 because of the way he drives. We come close to the exit where we're to get off, And all of a sudden, both of us look up at the same time, and there's a sign up above. You know how they have those lit signs with messages? And this one said, "Don't hurry, be happy."
Beautiful.
How do you like that? See, Baba
I
said,
know, and I know just Baba drops these things in delight.
I love it. I said, oh my God, it's don't hurry, be happy. Jai Baba.
Beautiful.
Ron, do you have something to end it up with? No. Oh, okay.
Let's have a few, Lucas, have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba. So here's some beautiful little poems. Very simply said.
These are love poems to Baba. They're written by an author, A.R. Asher, not a Baba lover. The first one, you are my love story, and I write you into everything I do, everything I see, everything I touch, and everything I dream. You are the words that fill my pages. You are my love story, and I write you into everything I do, everything I see, everything I touch, and everything I dream. You are the words that fill my pages. Baba. The second one, I have considered a life without you, and not another thing could cause me more pain. I've considered a life without you, and not another thing could cause me more pain. And the last one, there is my heart, and then there is you. There is my heart, and then there is you, and I'm not sure there is a difference. There
Yeah.
is my heart, and then there is you, and I'm not sure there's any difference.
Have you got another? Oh, what about the other one? There was what? Do you have? Let's see.
Well, I have some. You want me to go on?
Yeah, yeah. Read a
I don't
couple.
know which one you mean, but there's a short one. If forever does exist, please let it be with you. If forever does exist, please let it be with you. And another, I was placed in this universe to love you. And I don't take something that important lightly. I was placed in this universe to love you. And I don't take something that important lightly.
Oh, really beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Any last minute things, or we'll go on to cyberspace?
Diane.
Diane. Oh, you're just saying goodbye. Okay,
Uh,
wonderful. Thank.
Jeff, I had an idea for a topic. I don't know.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It was if we could share moments in our lives that we are aware, or we were aware at that moment, that Baba has been transforming us. That there's certain moments that we can actually feel that we're changed and changing, and that it's because of him.
Yeah. So kind of the transformative moments.
Yeah.
To try to, wow, let me see. I'll have to kind of unpack that.
Yeah.
let's see, so that, so that more people can.
Yeah, I could give you more example. I don't want to give examples now, but like maybe we'll talk about it. I'll give you a call or something.
Yeah, give me a
Yeah,
call
I
or
was
type it
thinking,
out.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think it'll bring up a lot of personal stuff, but like it's like I want to know when I'm growing. I know that I'm not the same me that I was, 2 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years. I've changed so much, and there have been moments that I'm actually aware of his hand on me changing me.
yeah. But even if it were broadened to special moments with Baba, even if they would, they would normally be transformative anyway. With the camera angle that you may not have ever considered, that's valuable in your awakening. But yeah, okay.
Awakening, that's a good word to go.
Yeah, awakening. What moments of awakening? Hey, wait. Yeah.
We got it.
And, and that's kind of what you're saying anyway.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we'll see if we can, but anything you have, just send to me or
I'll send you
call
some
me.
ideas and
Yeah,
examples.
yeah. Okay, folks. Yeah, Goer, you got one last quote there?
Oh my.
Oh,
Thought I thought I would share that story at the end. That was my last quote is don't
okay.
hurry, be happy.
Yeah.
Don't hurry, be happy.
It
And
was so
Baba,
appropriate for both him
not,
and
not only that, but Baba said that once.
don't hurry, be
Yeah, don't
Really?
hurry, be happy.
really.
I bet Tony could find it. He
Oh,
actually said that, don't hurry, be happy.
really?
He was referring to, slowing down. Don't be,
Yeah,
yeah. But he kind of did it in that way.
but it could not have come at a more opportune moment. It was meant for both of us in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, right. To save your life and slow your husband down. Danny.
That's right.
Okay, anyway, thank you everyone for have a very nice week.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Baba, Jai
Hey,
Baba.
Baba.
Thank you, Jai Baba. Thank
Hey,
you.
Baba. Thank you.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba.